Hello and welcome to another edition of Das Reboot, Episode 2, Batman. The Batman episode. Nah. We gotta be as very monotone with that as possible.
Did my best.
You did your best, and it was a great one. Anyways, welcome to Das Reboot, the show where we talk about remakes, reboots, and adaptions. And a reboot, remake, or adaption, or the objective of the show is to talk about movies that are continued on through a remake.
Continued on or rising from the ashes like the Great Phoenix.
Yep. You always state it better than I do.
I tend to go on the more theatrical side, but, you know, while we're at it, why don't we introduce ourselves?
All right, I'm Steve Jacoby.
I'm Zachary Lyle.
And we're here to talk about Batman. Main film points we're going to talk about is the 1989 version and Batman Begins back in the
2005.
2005. The aughts, or the oots, however you want to play it.
Aughts, oots. Depends if you're from Canada or not.
Right. And we're going to talk about the original Adam West stuff back in the 60s.
You can't really get to the 86 version or the 2005 version unless you touch
Adam West.
Unless you touch the Adam West version.
Yep. Oh, boy. That's... You know, back in the day of Batman, you know, it originally started as a comic. Naturally, as most comic book movies do, but the early incantations of Batman, if you've ever seen them, really goofy. Really like the old black and white versions on the silver screen. Really goofy looking. Batman's almost unrecognizable at some points, as well as Robin, but you could still tell it's Batman and Robin.
Right.
They're still going after gangsters and trying to make the streets of Gotham City a safer place to be.
But those original ones, those were just little shorts.
Little shorts that they play in theaters because they didn't have like full-length movies back then, as long as they are today.
I remember back in my day.
Here we go, old man Zach, preaching on.
The 1966 version, though, was the first full-length feature film for the dynamic duo. As far as the storyline goes, we have the arch-villains of the United Underworld, the Joker, the Penguin, the Riddler, and the Catwoman. Not just Catwoman.
The Catwoman.
Combine forces to dispose of Batman and Robin as they launch their fantastic plot to control the entire world. From his submarine, Penguin and his cohorts hijack a yacht containing a dehydrator, which can extract all moisture from humans and reduce them to particles of dust.
Okay, let me just say one thing. I did not watch this movie, and bad on me, but however, the whole dehydrator thing is a good thing to know.
Should we go back and say spoiler alert? I think it's important.
Anyways, continue.
The evildoers turned the 9 Security Council members in the United World building into 9 vials of multicolored crystals. Batman and Robin track the villains in their Batboat and use Bat-charged missiles to force the submarine to surface.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is basically the entire movie in just a single paragraph here. We're directed by Leslie H. Martinson, produced by William Dozier, and written by Lorenzo Semple Jr. These are, of course, based on characters by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. We have it starring Adam West as Bruce Wayne Batman, Burt Ward, Dick Grayson, and Robin. Lee Merriweather was Miss Kitka and Catwoman, and the most interesting thing is that she was not the Catwoman from the show.
No, she wasn't.
I'll dive into that here in a moment. We have Cesar Romero as the Joker, Burgess Meredith as the Penguin, Frank Gorshin as the Riddler, Alan Napier as Alfred Pennyworth. Basically, all the characters from the original show
were in this movie.
Minus Catwoman were in this movie. They kept much of the original show staff, and it was due to the fact of when they were filming this. They actually filmed it between season 1 and season 2 of the television show.
Huh. How many seasons were there of Batman?
As far as I can find here, 3.
3, okay.
In his autobiography, Adam West actually writes for his asking of more money to do the film, and that the producers counter-offered with the fact that another actor would be hired to play the role of Bruce Wayne.
Oh my God.
Batman. So he decided, if you ask me, that's kind of blackmail, but
it is.
Thank goodness he stuck along with the role, because he's an icon now.
Yeah, absolutely. And Adam West's legacy doesn't just end there, though. We'll talk more about that in the 1989 version of Batman.
Correct. Julie Newmar, up to this point, had played Catwoman.
She's such
on
a hottie.
season 1.
What happened to that?
She had other commitments at the time and was replaced by Lee Merriweather in the film. She then came back, Julie Newmar then came back for 10 episodes of season 2, and then was replaced in season 3 by Eartha Kitt.
Oh, wow. So 3 Catwomans there.
3 Catwomans.
Incarnation of Batman.
2 mainly for the show, and then 1 specifically for this movie.
Like, no one's gonna notice there, you know, this whole Dick York, Dick Sargent.
Sergeant Pepper.
Sergeant York.
Yes.
Yeah.
And an interesting little fact, when the movie's first starting, and you see the Batcopter flying over Gotham City, there's a group of women exercising on top of one of the buildings with an instructor in like a completely red suit. That happens to be the great Jack LaLanne leading that group of women.
Ooh,
something
look at him.
You may not know.
Now, for the audience, who exactly is that?
Jack LaLanne?
Yeah.
One of the great fitness icons.
He wasn't the original jogger, was it? Or Yager, as
it's a soft J.
That's the Nordic way of pronouncing J's.
Yes. He was definitely known for his fitness routines. That's all I really know. I don't know the full depth.
It was
I've
enough,
been focusing on Batman.
Well, it was
what
enough
the show's
for
supposed to be
people
about.
to know of him.
Exactly.
But wow, you know, original 1966 version of Batman. Everyone knows. If you don't, then you're weird. But it coined the original theme that we all know today of that old 60s, just Batman, and that was it.
Gotta say it as monotone as possible, remember.
I don't want to get sued. But there's that, and then there's the whole culture that came from that show, because it wasn't really like cheesy. I mean, it was cheesy, but it was more campy, and that's what they were more going on. A lot of the 60s culture shows back in the day were like that. And it was kind of like the blending of a sort of a old school and a new school of how things were getting filmed now. If you think about the narrator, you know, how he narrates like the segues, like, this is the end of our Cape Crusader duo. He's always got these rhymes that are like going on during his monologues, and
naturally,
yeah, and that's such an old way of announcing, like radio announcer type skits, and you really won't hear that anymore. But for those who don't know what I'm talking about, look up Batman 1966, watch a few episodes, and you will have a great time.
It happens to be playing on Netflix at this current point in time.
The movie is.
Yes.
Not necessarily the serial show.
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah.
But an interesting fun fact is that the narrator for this movie is actually the producer, William Dozier.
Oh, nice. He is double dipping
uncredited.
In the fun.
Uncredited. That's the thing to remember.
Well, that's weird. Why you wouldn't credit that?
Yeah. He wanted to make a big screen film to generate interest in the proposed Batman TV series by having the feature in theaters while the first season of this series was rolling before the cameras. But 20th Century Fox refused it because it would have to cover the entire cost of the movie, while it would only have to share the cost of a TV series, which is a much less risky proposition.
Right. So they had to cut some corners there.
Correct.
Cut some bat corners.
Even though it's often described as a parody of a popular comic book character, some of the commentators have actually believed that its comedy is not so tightly confined. I don't know.
I don't know about
I don't
that
know
either.
if I agree about that. The thing we do have to remember is that this was made at a time when the Batman of the Golden Age comics was essentially neutered. Basically, everything is watered down.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's sitting here trying to make everything light and airy.
Family-friendly.
Yes.
Family-friendly superhero whose main character's parents were killed.
Right.
I don't know why I'm laughing at that. I'm a bastard for laughing at that. But, however, that was 1966 Batman. You know, a lot of the things in that, the bat phone, the bat helicopter, the bat missiles, everything was bat, that. And I remember one episode of it where they actually go to a restaurant. They go to a little fast food restaurant, and it was like the Batman restaurant, and Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson are just like checking it out, and you know they're in between a crime or something like that, and just like having a load up. And of course they're all dressed up as Batman and Robin, and some chick comes out and takes their order, and they're like, "Oh, I'll have the Bat Burger and the Bat Fries." It's kind of like a play on itself when it does that.
It's the way that the movie and the television series went.
Oh, yeah.
The movie, much like the television series, is actually strongly influenced by the comparatively obscure 1940s serials of Batman. They feature a lot of the things like escaping done almost out of luck.
Yeah.
They had a knack for putting bat prefixes on everything. So I actually have a list here of some of the things where it's like, did you really need to make that a bat something?
What do you got?
We have the bat pole, which right off the bat.
Oh, no, you didn't.
It sounds very naughty.
It is very naughty. I mean, I think if they had that kind of 60s mentality still going on, I know a certain toy shop around here could definitely capitalize on it.
I know not of what you speak, but that reminds me of something that I have to pick up.
All right.
We also have the bat ladder. When they're sitting here tracking this yacht, they actually mention something for a bat drift angle.
Bat drift angle.
In order to position the Batcopter in just the right position.
Oh, come on.
So they can drop the bat ladder.
Oh, my God.
You also have shark repellent bat spray.
The most infamous of all.
Indeed. This isn't actually talked about, but it's a sign that you notice in there. There is a film developing tank for superfine bat grain.
What? Superfine bat grain?
Superfine bat grain. Think of it kind of like HD+, I suppose.
You know, with all of this going on, you know how during the fight scenes they'd have the whoosh or the smack and all
pow,
pow.
biff.
Yeah, and they came up with like new names as they did. Like, what other ways can we what other names can we come up with for like getting punched in the face? And
or falling into water,
or falling into
the littlest things.
Schlamoosh. You know, I'm surprised they didn't start adding the prefix bat to all of those. That would have been one hell of an episode.
Bat pow, bat
pow.
biff,
bat in the
boom.
face, bat boom. Hey baby, you want a bat boom?
Let's get through this list here. We've also, since we mentioned the film developing tank, there's also the bat camera with a polarized bat filter. We have bat rope, bat gas, bat radio.
I hate it when I have bat gas, man. It's the worst.
That is the baddest gas I have ever smelt. We also have bat charge missiles. The bat boat goes to full thrust bat speed.
God. Is there anything here that can't be an innuendo?
I'll have to get back to you on that one. And
bat innuendo.
We've got a couple other things here. We've got bat cuffs.
Mm-hmm. When you want to get kinky in the bat bedroom.
With Catwoman.
Ooh.
Or Miss Kitka. And finally, for the molecular dust separator that they have, They have the Bat Centrifuge.
Yeah, that just brings it all down right there.
Another thing you notice in this is that there's some unexplained deductions in here for
Bat
some
occurrences.
Yes, there are some unexplained bat occurrences here, as far as coming to the conclusion for riddles that are proposed by the Riddler, launching these Polaris missiles up into the air, which is another theme for this movie. It's first major foray into Cold War issues, paying heavy attention to Polaris missiles, war surplus submarines, and taking a little poke at the Pentagon by suggesting that they actually sold one of these war surplus submarines to a PN
Ooh.
that can only be reached at a P.O. box.
Huh. That's
So they
tricky.
actually show Batman sitting here saying, you done wrong for sitting here selling it to somebody without a full address.
Oh.
And the guy is just kind of like, golly gee.
Of course.
I'm sorry.
Yep. That good old 60s. Well,
And it was Batman's first attempts to poke fun at domestic and international politics.
good for him. Good for that series, because
It's branching out.
it really is. I mean, at the time, too, it was the 1960s, right at the height of Vietnam. So, everything was like light and fluffy in nature when it came to entertainment, because it kind of needed to be to enlighten the spirits of everyone around.
The sort of Disneyfication
It was
of the media.
Yeah, Disneyfication of the media.
Yes.
However, things like that you just mentioned, subliminal in nature, very, very smart.
Indeed.
But I don't think anybody would have gotten it right away, unfortunately.
But to slightly backtrack to where we were, the Riddler proposes this riddle, and I have no idea how they come to the conclusion.
Riddle me it.
What weighs 6 ounces, sits in a tree, and is very dangerous?
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you. This is actually what's written in the sky with these Polaris missiles. Can you deduce?
It's some sort of flying creature, maybe.
Well, naturally.
I was trying to be.
But can you come to a specific conclusion?
From
From that alone, can you come to a specific conclusion as to what the Riddler is trying to
insinuate
Some
guy named Bruce Wayne?
No.
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 What's he trying to insinuate?
A sparrow with a machine gun.
What?
A sparrow with a machine gun
What?
is the answer that Robin gives. And there's a quick moment where all of a sudden Commissioner Gordon is like, yes, of course. Because that's the first thing I think about.
Sparrow with a machine gun.
When I hear something weighs 6 ounces, sits in a tree, and is very dangerous.
They're out there, Zach. It's going to happen.
I think they would have tried to include the weight of the machine gun with the weight of the sparrow. I don't think that's 6 ounces. I think
Could have
that's
been one
way
of those
more.
bat machine guns that are very lightweight and you keep in your utility
Perhaps.
belt.
I guess so.
That was just like an extra ounce and a half added to the weight. What? A sparrow with a machine gun? Why would you say that, Robin? Like, holy blow our minds, Batman. What the fuck?
But for some reason, that combined with the first riddle of what happens when a turkey flies upside down, he gobbles up. So combining gobbles up with sparrow with a machine gun, somehow come to the conclusion that it's something that would gobble up a poor innocent bird, which led to the Catwoman as the answer. Why did we need the machine gun?
Because it just makes it more badass. I don't know.
More bat ass.
More
I see
bat.
what you did there.
Oh my god. I'm restless now. I need to get ganja with the wind. God, what? Oh my God! All right, so that's the legacy of
That's the legacy.
Batman.
The other big thing about this movie was that it was a great display for the range of transportation that Batman could have. So up to this point, they only really had the Batmobile show up in season 1. Carrying on from this movie, they started using the Batcycle with the sidecar. That started to become an actual common occurrence.
Right. Was that the first Batcycle or ever? Or was there like something in the comic books? I sure hope so it was in the comic books, because it can't just like come from this.
I don't think it was the first conception of a Batcycle, but it was the first appearance in the television universe.
Well, good
for the Batcycle. With sidecar.
Yeah, the Bat sidecar.
Detaches as a go-kart, so that way
so you
Robin
no longer
can ride on the other side of the Batcopter. They both happen to stop in almost exactly the identical spot, and then just hop out and hop into the Batcopter.
Yes. No longer does he have to be the Bat bitch anymore.
Yes.
He can be his own thing.
But the Batcycle, this was its big introduction into the television series. It actually properly crossed over into the television series, as the budgetary limits of the TV series precluded the full use of the other vehicles. The Batcopter and the Batboat did make brief appearances in the show, but they were primarily stock footages from the movie filming.
Huh. How about that?
So it's interesting to know where your little clips come from.
Oh yeah, stock footage is stock footage, and you always have it.
Indeed.
All right. Well, I don't know if I can go on with this.
That's basically all I have about this.
Look good. I guess I'll segue into 1989 Batman. 1989. Nah. Batman. Okay. Well, Batman, 1989, directed by Tim Burton. In a city infested with crime, one man decides to bring justice to the streets of Gotham during the night. Dressed like a giant Batman, Bruce Wayne strikes fear into the heart of criminals and rids the streets of petty thugs. However, the local gangs take notice of his presence. Jack Napier, crime boss Grissom's #1 guy, is betrayed and set up to be apprehended by the police. Almost getting away from the setup, Napier runs into Batman, who accidentally throws Napier into a pool of acid at a plant, forever disfiguring him and his sanity. Jack is reborn into Batman's most notorious foe, the Joker. No, Batorious.
Oh, Batorious.
Yeah.
My bad.
Anyways, he becomes the Joker and unleashes his vengeance on both Gotham and Batman. And so, that's the synopsis of the film. It's pretty, it stars Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne Batman and Jack Nicholson as Jack Napier / the Joker.
You gotta love Jack.
Now, let's start. Well, here's the one thing about the movie, is that Jack Nicholson has top billing. Not Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson.
I can see that.
Yeah, and I guess he didn't agree to do the movie unless that happened, which is kind of, I don't know, arrogant of him. But Jack Nicholson is a badass, though, and
it was one of those names at the time where it was really big.
He was. Yeah, he had like a whole bunch of films under him, and in order, the first person they had in mind for the Joker actually was Robin Williams.
Really?
Yeah, and when he wasn't given the part, he was really hurt about it. And
I can see that, considering how much Robin Williams is such a, I guess you could call him a fanboy.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, they didn't offer it to him. His feelings were hurt. He actually made a big deal about it. And it wasn't until like years later that the studio actually apologized to him. And I guess they let bygones be bygones after that.
I would hope so. I had kind of hoped to see him make some sort of appearance in there as, like, perhaps the Riddler.
He would have been excellent as the Riddler. Oh my god. Oh, man. Oh, Robin Williams. Rest in peace, buddy.
You live forever in our hearts.
Yeah.
and on the silver screen.
Yep.
I cannot, just as a quick side note, I cannot get enough of Robin Williams.
I still can't get over his death.
I love watching Hook.
Yep.
And
such a great personality, and he's so talented. Like, not only did he do comedy,
not only was he talented, but he was very charitable.
Mm-hmm.
He had such a loving heart,
mm-hmm.
and he would go out of his way to sit here and make somebody's day. And that's something that I like to carry on.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
absolutely.
If you can sit there and just something as simple as holding a door for a crowd of people that's trying to rush out of a restaurant. You would not believe how many people would just like try to push past them.
Yeah.
But if you sit there and you hold the door and you show that you have patience to get wherever you need to go,
mm-hmm.
all of a sudden somebody's like, wow.
This guy.
So charitable.
Yeah.
And just something as simple as that is almost sad to sit here and have somebody be like, that's so charitable.
Yeah.
When there's so much more that can be done.
We're gushing a little too much about it. It's all right, though.
Onward and upward.
Onward. Anyways, fans were originally upset to know that Keaton was going to be Batman, and they started to petition to get Adam West to reprise his role as Batman, actually. So West was never approached to play Batman, and if he did, he would have actually, like, said no to it, I read. This is a fun fact that really, really gets me. These upset fans were so upset that they actually became the first digital butthurt nerds ever, and went to the internet in its infancy to complain about it. Late 1980s internet. You know, who's gonna like look at this stuff?
The birth of bitchy bloggers.
Yeah, the birth of bitchy bloggers was all because of this film, Batman.
True fanboys at work.
Yeah. Anyways, all this butthurt was silenced, though, when the studio caught wind of the petition, which was signed by 50,000 people, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was all put to rest when the studio quickly put together a teaser trailer for the audience to view and ran it before some films. And people saw it. They would actually buy full price tickets for other movies just to go watch the trailer at the beginning and then just walk out. But they were so impressed by it that all the butthurt stopped and people were super excited for Michael Keaton to be the Dark Knight.
And one of the things that I found out about the whole reason they brought in Michael Keaton was that they needed somebody that could play a dramatic role, bring a sort of calmness to the character. Calm composure, but also be able to jump across that line of calm sanity into a sort of crazy over-the-top insanity that they needed for certain parts of the movie.
Which had to, like, mirror Jack Nicholson's part as the Joker. Correct. As well, which was brilliant. They did it. Here's some stuff I did read about Keaton's performance. The contributing factors to Keaton's performance is that he couldn't hear anything when he was in the bat suit. He was deaf.
I could see that.
So, bats are usually blind, but he was deaf. Pretty ironic. Also, Keaton's very claustrophobic. So being put into this bat suit just made him edgy and, you know, put that kind of calm composure, but at the same time he was like freaking out and being nervous as hell.
Well, this was also a time when special effects and makeup and wardrobe was very, very limited in that time. So it was, as far as I'm aware of, it was a full-on rubber suit.
Yep.
Which would be very tough to move around in.
Probably very hot.
Very hot. So it's understandable to sit here and feel that actor's frustration to sit here and be basically immobile by this suit. I mean, it's one of those designs, especially with the cowl.
Yep.
Which they managed to fix in the 2005 version, which we'll get to in a bit. It's very restricting to the head, so you have to forcibly like move your shoulders, move your torso, and when you've got a full-on rubber suit that you're in.
Another fun thing, Keaton's original line in the film, when the thug asks him, "Who are you?" His original line was supposed to be, "I am the Knight," with either an N or a KN. But he ad-libbed, "I'm Batman." And, that's like one of the most iconic quotes from that movie today. All because of Michael Keaton.
You have to wonder if they were trying to do some foreshadowing with the Batman animated series when he comes up with the phrase, "I am vengeance. I am the Knight. Mm-hmm. I am Batman."
Actors who were originally to play the Joker: William Dafoe, David Bowie, John Lithgow, Tim Curry, and James Woods.
And I believe you said Robin Williams as well.
Robin Williams, yep. He was originally, but they considered all these other actors before settling down with Jack Nicholson.
Wow.
So,
some of those, it's like, I don't know. But on the other hand, it's like, just to get your hands on some of the screen footage.
Right. Just
for the testing.
Yeah.
I want that.
I want that too.
I want that so badly.
I want to see a David Bowie trying to do a Joker, because he's usually just so calm and composed as most of his roles go.
Batman, dance.
No, that would have been great during the Prince scenes of the movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is another thing to remember, is that Prince was the main singer for the lyrical songs.
Right, the lyrical songs of the movie, and they actually had two soundtracks to this movie. They had one with the score, all the instrumental music, and then they had another one with all Prince songs. And some songs that weren't even in the movie.
Interesting.
But it was just Batman by Prince.
Do you happen to know if this was the first movie that they had started to do that sort of thing? Because you find out now with some of the movies you have the composure,
and then what they call the soundtrack.
Correct.
I don't think so, because I can easily come up with one already before Batman. That was Top Gun.
Aha.
And that was one of my favorite soundtracks growing up. Originally, Michael Jackson was supposed to be doing the music, all the rock music, but then he couldn't do it. He was too busy doing something else, and so they
I have to get my nose fixed.
They brought in Prince then. So if Michael Jackson can't do it, you bring in Prince, which is funny because back in the day when I was just a stupid kid, I used to think Prince was Michael Jackson. Whenever I just saw him on television, I'm like, oh, it's Michael Jackson. Dumb ass me.
It's kind of like the fact that you don't see Hillary Clinton and Martha Stewart in the same room. You kind of wonder.
Oh my God. Mind blown. Holy mind blowing Batman. Holy conspiracy Batman. All right. Burton, original actor for Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Mel Gibson.
He's got the chin for it. Especially the younger Gibson. He had the chin for it. I could have seen it, however, I didn't.
Nope.
No.
Especially with that mullet he sported back then.
Oh man. I think that's a bad omen. You can't have a Bruce Wayne with a mullet living in a big old mansion.
It was the 80s, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. Even I had a mullet back then.
Thank God he didn't say yes to Batman.
And he still kind of had that Australian sort of twang to his voice, so it's kind of a good reason.
Back in Mad Max, I heard they overdubbed all his lines. It's not just his original voice. I don't know if they brought him back in the studio or someone else.
Well, we'll have to touch on that when we get to Mad Max.
Oh yeah, Mad Max Das Reboot.
Let's focus on Batman here. The thing you do have to realize about this movie, I don't think you've touched on yet, is that it's a Tim Burton film.
Yes.
With music by Danny Elfman.
Ooh, yeah. Danny Elfman, incredible composer. His style is so kooky.
These two definitely tend to stick together.
Yes.
There are a lot of Danny Elfman
and Tim Burton
collaborations.
Yes,
correct.
Thank you. Like Nightmare Before Christmas.
Absolutely.
Edward Scissorhands.
Yes.
Corpse Bride.
Yes.
Yes. So, yeah, they're like the dynamic duo of filmmaking.
It's almost like Tim Burton and Johnny Depp.
Almost, yeah.
The two of those two tend to stick together pretty tightly.
Do. Maybe the three of them, the Bat Trio, dynamic trio. This movie was huge, though. It had a grossing budget, and it had a budget, and it grossed phenomenally well. A lot of that had to do with like some of the studios they used. Like they used the same exact studio that Aliens was filmed in. And when they actually arrived to do it, the whole atmospheric processor and nest from Aliens was still up. Like none of it was torn down. It was all just still up intact, and they had to tear it down and start doing Batman now.
Alfred, what are these things hatching?
Facehugger. Holy facehugger, Batman. So
that's something I kind of want to see now is Batman versus Aliens.
Oh, God. Chestburster trying to get out of that rubber suit and just can't.
I know they've done Deadpool versus Aliens.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn, now I gotta find that.
Something to think about.
Yeah, something really to think about.
You can spread the Deadpool franchise.
Over anything.
Over anything.
This movie really did change filmmaking from here on out, though. Sylvester Stallone said that this film led to the decline of muscle-bound action stars from the 1980s and changed it into more of a special effects takeover of the movie industry. Stallone said, if I knew I could get Velcro muscles, I would have gone to the gym all those years.
I still don't think he learned his lesson, though.
Well, yeah, he's still buff as hell at late 60s.
I go to the gym every day.
Yeah. And he would call that wedded to the iron game. He wouldn't have to do that, but I guess he did, you know. Still does it now, even though we have like movies that are special effects.
Well, we've almost reverted. We've almost gone back to the fact that all these actors have to be pushed well beyond their limits to sit here and make it look like they're about to explode.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Hugh Jackman and...
God, that guy is so buff.
You look at Hugh Jackman, you look at Tom Hardy, you look at Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt even.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting there getting ready for his Guardians of the Galaxy role.
Yeah. That's an ugly duckling turned into a beautiful swan right there.
I think he was always a beautiful swan.
Okay.
I'm
sorry. Right?
He was considered an ugly duckling, but now he's actually found his niche.
Yep.
Which is something that ever since I saw him in some of his earlier roles with like Parks and Recreation, I'm sitting here going, this guy has comedy, but he can also play like deeper parts.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, I misspoke there. I apologize.
Quite all right.
All right.
Let's move on.
Moving on. Kiefer Sutherland was originally approached to play Robin.
Why would they have Robin?
I know. Well, the original script actually had Robin in it, but it didn't. And so it was just like a dark Batman film, which, you know, if you look at it these days, it's not really that dark to begin with. It's just more kooky, but it is kind of like, it's got a dark mood to it.
It's a Tim Burton film. It's going to have a darker mood to it.
Exactly.
I think that's one of the reasons that they brought him in for this project was they needed to go from that light parody comedic sort of approach to a more darker, grittier sort of movie.
Right. Years later, Tim Burton actually got into a debate with Kevin Smith. And Kevin Smith just blamed him by saying, you know, this is not like following Batman lore at all. And so Tim Burton actually confessed that he never really read any comic books of Batman except The Killing Joke.
Ooh.
And well, the main reason he never read the comics was because he was dyslexic. And it was just very hard for him to just like get into it. I can relate. I'm dyslexic.
I find myself dyslexic at times.
Lisdexic.
Yes.
There you go.
Lisdexic.
But he read The Killing Joke, and that's really, really, really inspired him to do Batman in the end.
And that's something that's actually come to light here with the feature film that they've done. As you walked in, I showed you my copy.
Oh, yeah.
That I happened to get, the deluxe edition. I'm so excited to sit there and go through that. As Tuesday.
You nerd.
I'm nerd and proud.
Yeah, well.
I wear...
If people could see your shirt right now.
Look at me right now. Not only do I have... Swear to me! Not only do I sit here and I have my Batman hoodie on, but underneath I have my Batman shirt.
And it's all
if you look down at my feet, I have my Batman and Robin socks on.
Okay, I'm going to have to take pictures of this and tweet it later.
Well, we already have on our Facebook page, we already have the one picture posted.
You snuck that past me.
I snuck that past you, but it's important when we say 3 o'clock to be here at 3.
Okay.
Just saying.
I'm sorry.
Off topic.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Forgive me?
I forgive you.
Thank you. All right. But yeah, you look awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have nothing. I do have a Batman shirt, which I should have worn to this, but...
Absolutely. I even have my Justice League underwear on, so...
TMI, but good to know.
Ladies, you can get a hold of me at...
But the film, in the end, did really well. When it comes to the numbers, the original budget, I'm just going to call it the original Bat budget, was $35 million.
Wow.
It grossed $251 million. That is huge. And it was the highest grossing film of 1989.
That makes sense.
One thing that wasn't really a drawback, but at the time, was that it was competing with itself. Because 4.5 months after it came out in theaters, it was released for VHS. And it was still...
That quickly?
That quickly, yeah.
For that time... Well, even for nowadays standards, that is really quick.
That's super quick. But it was still playing in theaters. And so a lot of theater owners were really upset that...
Well, naturally.
Well, a lot of people bought the VHS. And I think it overshadowed the sales for theaters in the end. Yeah, that's Batman. It's become one of the most iconic action films from the 80s and one of the most iconic films in the Batman series of all. It performs so well. The only other Batman movie to actually do better than it was The Dark Knight, which we'll dabble in a little bit, but not right now. But next up, we've got Batman Begins, in which we will discuss after this. Alright. Batman Begins, 2005 version of Batman. Zach, you got the synopsis and facts for this?
I do. Let's start off by saying that this was directed by Christopher Nolan. Characters appearing in the comic books published by DC Comics is what this is based on, obviously. The storyline I have here. When his parents were killed, billionaire playboy Bruce Wayne relocates to Asia, where he is mentored by Henry Ducard and Ra's al Ghul in how to fight evil. When learning about the plan to wipe out evil in Gotham City by Ducard, Bruce prevents this plan from getting any further and heads back to his home. Back in his original surroundings, Bruce adapts the image of a bat to strike fear into the criminals and the corrupt as the icon known as Batman.
Or the Batman, as they keep calling him in this movie.
But it doesn't stay quiet for long. The thing about this movie is that it's actually the first movie where we actually get to see more of an in-depth building of Bruce Wayne into Batman. We actually get to see his kind of origins as to how he learns to fight. With the Burton film,
it was more of a flashback in a way.
It was more of a flashback as to, well, this tragedy happened to him, so that's what made him this way.
Right.
And then the revelation, again, spoiler alert, but the revelation that Jack Napier was actually the man who killed his parents.
Mm-hmm. Spoiler alert. From the original Batman 1989 version.
Correct. Whereas this one, we don't see who exactly killed his parents, but we see that it's affected him to the point where he's kind of gone rogue and has decided to seek out training in Asia to sit here and better be able to fight this crime.
Which is how he did it, because he learned his samurai training from Ra's al Ghul.
Indeed.
And, this whole movie, when I was watching it for the first time, it felt like it had flashback scenes, but it wasn't the only flashback scenes that were happening was when he was a kid. Right. And his father was still alive.
Correct.
But when it came down to, the whole, before he was Batman, that it was current time. And we don't get to see Batman until, halfway through the movie. When he's, all in his Batman suit.
Right.
That was really cool. And it still, messes with my mind a little bit compared to the other, Batman movies.
It sets a slightly different tone. It's not just dropping you into the action. It's sitting here saying, we're basically taking everything you know, and we're rebuilding from the ground up.
Which was absolutely what the Batman franchise needed.
Well, he stated his intention to, by he, I mean Christopher Nolan, stated his intention to reinvent this film franchise by doing this origin story for the character. It's a story he'd never heard told before.
Right.
So, he said that humanity and realism would be the basis of the origin film here, and that the world of Batman is that of grounded reality. It will be a recognizable contemporary reality against which an extraordinary heroic figure arises.
I want to...
Try saying that 5 times fast.
No, thank you. I want to add on to that about the whole grounded reality thing that he was talking about. Mm-hmm. Back in the Tim Burton version of the film.
You had your chance.
Well, this goes into what you're saying.
This is my territory. Back off.
Keaton is considered a logic freak. He considers himself a logic freak, and that he was actually talking with Tim Burton, saying, in reality, it would have been super simple to find out who Batman really was in real life. And what came out of that was, whenever Keaton was in his Batman suit as Batman, he would lower his voice register. Which is funny because in Batman Begins and the rest of the Dark Knight series, we've got Christian Bale and his sort of growly type voice.
You're talking about this.
Yeah, exactly.
Something to sit here
and
intimidate my enemies.
So you have to credit Michael Keaton for that.
Right, but it's also something to masking your character.
Right.
It's something to be expected. The thing that I do like...
Well, Adam West didn't do it.
Adam West didn't do it because it was more it was more comedic take.
Yeah, exactly.
We've covered that.
Yeah.
This was more into a serious range to where you needed to make that distinction between Batman and Bruce Wayne. You couldn't just have the same speech patterns.
Right, exactly.
Because it was too recognizable, so you had to do something to set one character apart from the other.
But Keaton did it first, I'm just saying.
Well, he did it, but not to that extreme. Christian Bale said, it needs to be further down.
Well, you gotta, heighten up the game when you're doing a reboot or remake.
Right.
So, yeah, he definitely brought it, his game.
The thing...
And upped it.
And we'll talk about this when Batfleck decides to bring out his movie.
Batfleck?
Ben Affleck.
Oh, Ben Affleck.
But I did say Batfleck.
Yeah.
It was interesting when they were developing his character for the Batman vs. Superman movie, which we're not going to get into here really, but it was important for him not to just drop that register like had done before. He wanted some sort of augmentation to have been established in the cowl to sit here and change his voice.
Right.
So, I'm not sure as far as the recording process for that, how that went, if he managed to just use his regular voice and then they did all the digital alterations, or if he actually did drop that register.
Right.
But it was something that he said, you can't just drop that register, you have to have some distortion so that way they can't distinguish one character from the other.
Yeah.
And I'd like to backtrack and say that the screenplay was actually, it was Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer. Something interesting to know about this movie, there were a couple of alternate selections for Christian Bale.
How so? Like,
well,
who played the actor or who played the character? Or
Christian Bale was their ultimate pick, but there were a couple of other people that tried out for the role.
Oh boy.
Number one, Ashton Kutcher.
That's such a polar opposite from Christian Bale, in my opinion.
I kind of wanted to see him in the suit, run out onto the street and say, "Dude, where's my car?"
And pulling a punked episode while he's at it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Joker's sitting here thinking that he's going to be setting off a present bomb, but in actual reality, it's a dirty bomb. Damn it, Jackie. We filled the box with a week's worth of farts. Let's see the reaction.
This is our second episode in a row where we're having an actor who was part of that 70s show. Like last episode was Kirkwood Smith. Now we've got Ashton Kutcher and oh my god, our next episode is going to have another one too.
Oh, we'll cover that later.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
The next one here is the one that catches me off a little bit. I had known about it, but something he said, actually,
what do you got?
It turns interesting. Heath Ledger.
Wow.
Christopher Nolan actually approached Heath Ledger for the role of Bruce Wayne. Batman.
Holy shnikes.
And Heath Ledger came back to him and said he would never take part of a superhero film.
Oh my god.
And then The Dark Knight.
You know, all respect to Heath Ledger, but he should have stuck to that. He really should have.
He really should have.
Yeah. But at the same time, his greatest gift to the world was the Joker to us in that movie.
I'd say between that, 10 Things I Hate About You.
A Knight's Tale.
A Knight's Tale.
Really?
That was the next one I was going for.
Oh. I don't know why people like that film. People can like what they like, but I don't like it.
I think it's that weird cross between like a modernized sort of classical romance type deal.
It's really weird.
Heath Ledger on a horse as almost a literal white knight.
And then you've got Queen music playing in the background.
Because we will.
Right. That I love Queen. Queen's my favorite band in the world, and I grew up on the music. But having it played during A Knight's Tale totally took me out of the film. I was just like, are you kidding me?
A little off.
I was just like, Queen doesn't. Knight's Tale doesn't deserve Queen.
But Queen kind of forces itself into those classical movies that are somewhat more modernized, like Ella Enchanted.
Well, they are very classically trained.
You gotta find me somebody to love.
All right.
And our third person that was actually in the top 8 selected actors for this role.
Oh boy.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Okay, so both actors from Brokeback Mountain were considered for this. And Jake Gyllenhaal, famous for Donnie Darko.
Do you think they were piggybacked?
Oh, come on.
Sorry.
No.
I had to go there. Continue with your thought.
Well, the star from Donnie Darko as Batman.
If he had shaved the beard, perhaps.
Well, isn't that funny? Because isn't it his sister?
His sister is the one that replaces
Katie Holmes in The Dark Knight.
In The Dark Knight. As
funny how that works.
The character Rachel Dawes.
Yeah.
So that would have been completely awkward to sit here and be like, guess what? We don't want Katie Holmes back. We're bringing in your sister. How do you feel about having like an intimate kiss scene with her? Which I don't believe that happens in The Dark Knight. I don't think there's a...
They don't. I don't think there are any kissing scenes in that movie.
Well, not between Bruce Wayne or Batman
not even between
and
Harvey Dent.
Yes, there is. Harvey Dent and Rachel Dawes definitely have a intimate connection.
By the way, spoiler alert there. But, wow, Jake Gyllenhaal, Ashton Kutcher, and Heath Ledger all considered for Batman. And then we got Christian Bale, which I'm happy.
Didn't those guys all get together for the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus?
It's been forever since I've seen that movie.
Maybe they met at the casting call and said, hey, let's do this.
Yeah. Fun fact about Christian Bale and all the actors of Batman. Out of all the actors of Batman, only 2 have been the required height for Batman that Batman actually is.
Really?
Yep. One's Christian Bale, and the other is Adam West. Keaton was actually the shortest Batman.
Bravo.
Mm-hmm.
Bravo. They did well.
Mm-hmm.
David S. Goyer actually said that the goal of the film was to get the audience to care for both Batman and Bruce Wayne. Up until this point, they just figured that you were caring for more so for Batman.
Right.
They wanted equal character development for both.
And I think they did a really good job with that.
Indeed. Christopher Nolan felt the previous films were exercises in style rather than drama. They were more so comedy or action.
It's so funny. If you were to mix 1966 Batman with Batman Begins, you would get Batman 1989, in my opinion.
I would agree to that.
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan's inspiration was actually Richard Donner's 1978 film, Superman.
Wow.
Where it focuses on depicting the character's growth.
Right.
More so than the action.
Which is important in storytelling, as a general rule.
And also similar to Superman, Nolan wanted an all-star supporting cast for Batman Begins to lend a more epic feel and credibility to this story.
Mm-hmm. And we got Gary Oldman in it, playing lieutenant, or he's a sergeant when it first starts, Sergeant Gordon, and then he becomes a lieutenant. And it's funny because here's another reboot with Gary Oldman in it. He was in RoboCop 2014.
Gosh, is he in the next movie we do too?
I don't think so.
Can't he be in everything? I mean,
yeah.
The man is a genius.
He is. Really, really good.
Nolan's personal jumping off point for this movie, the inspiration was a short story titled The Man Who Falls. The short story was about Bruce's travels throughout the world, and the early scene in Batman Begins of Bruce Wayne falling into a well was actually adapted from that short story. They also pulled from a couple other stories that they had with Batman The Long Halloween, Batman Dark Victory, Batman Year One, where in that they have Sergeant James Gordon. They actually considered having Harvey Dent appear in this movie. But then replaced him with the new character, Rachel Dawes, when they realized that they couldn't do Harvey Dent justice.
That's too bad, because the next film, they really do. Is Rachel an original character for this film specifically?
Correct.
Interesting. They did another Harley Quinn in a way. But not as popular.
In a sense,
yeah. In a sense. But not as popular as Harley Quinn.
They used the vacancy of Bruce Wayne's multi-year absence presented in the Batman Year One to help sort of set up some of the film's events in the transpiring years. So, like, some of the troubles that he has getting back into
Gotham? Into his old life in Gotham?
Well, more so back into the family business.
Oh, yeah.
Wayne Enterprises.
Wayne Enterprises.
That's what I was
there
looking
you go.
for. Why did I think Wayne Corp? I'm thinking LexCorp. I'm starting to cross dimensions.
Oops. Well, they all are part of the same dimension, right? Especially with Batman vs. Superman.
Mind blown.
The Bat Dimension. So, one thing about this movie, I never saw it in theaters. I know. Sad.
I'm walking away from my microphone right now because I am so upset.
Oh, come back, Zach.
You done this on your own.
Well, here's the thing. I was so turned off from Batman after the last two Joel Schumacher films, Batman Forever and Batman Robin. And a lot of people were. And when I heard Batman Begins was coming out, I just wasn't exposed to, like, the idea that a new Batman film was coming out. And so I totally let's just overlook it. And then it was the suggestion of a friend of mine to just finally
suck it up
and watch it. It wasn't that much to suck up. I just wasn't thinking about it. So brought it over, we watched it, and was I ever wrong?
You had a chubby. You had yourself.
It was amazing. Like I had no idea, like, Batman could be this gritty and action packed as like all the other Batmans. They're goofy, but this is just like super serious. It's got like a paramilitary trained feel to it, and just it wasn't the Batman I grew up to know. It was something. It was sort of like a special ops Batman in a way, with all his gear, because he was just so decked out with all this cool gear. It wasn't like out of the blue or out of whack, like bat pepper spray, bat shark repellent. It was just he had like
let me get my bat rope, my bat ladder, my bat strap.
He had a suit that was originally made for soldiers,
correct?
To just help him fight wars, and then he had the memory cloth for his cape,
correct?
Which you put electric charge into it, and it's super stiff, which he used as a glider. Brilliant, and I'm glad they explained that.
Christopher Nolan wanted a flowing cloak that blows and flows, as in so many of the graphic novels.
Right.
So
and it did.
The creative team behind the suit actually created the cape out of their own version of a parachute nylon that had electrostatic flocking in it. Wow. A process that was shared with the team by the British Ministry of Defence.
Ooh, how about that?
The process was used by the London's police force to minimize night vision detection.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Why would they need that?
You don't have guns.
That's true.
So you need something to kind of have that upper hand.
Yeah, they've got a lot more cool toys over there.
The cape was topped by a cowl, which was designed by Christopher Nolan and Lindy Hemming and costume effects supervisor Graham Churchyard. It was actually created to be thin enough to allow motion, but thick enough to avoid wrinkling when Christian Bale turned his head in the Batsuit.
Wrinkling? Really?
Well, if you think back to our first show with the whole RoboCop incident, his butt was jiggling.
Yeah, I get that, but at the same time, he wasn't in all black. And usually all black, you can't really see wrinkles in. It just seemed a lot of work.
It depends what material you're using.
I guess so.
So one of the big things was that they didn't want that to happen with this. Churchyard explained that the cowl had been designed to show, quote-unquote, a man who has angst. So his character would be revealed through the mask.
So
you actually have
this is your mask.
The Batsuit's basic design was a neoprene undersuit, which was shaped by attaching molded cream latex sections. It was actually more freeing than the original.
Well, that's good.
Not so much the Adam West version, considering that was basically...
God, that was nothing. That was like underwear.
that was long underwear.
Long underwear, and that was it.
Hillbilly Batman. And then you go to Trojan Man, Batman.
Oh, God. All rubber.
And then all of a sudden you have the latex fully ribbed for her pleasure readaptation in 2005. One of the biggest things about this movie was that they actually created their own fighting method for this.
Really?
Because, well, the fight choreographers used, I'm going to say Keysi.
Okay.
Keysi, if you want to look it up. It's also been...
Keysi, I would think.
Potato, tomato, it's all the same.
Okay.
Anyways,
just call the whole thing off.
It was a fighting method which gained itself gained fame after it was used in this movie, and then the method was modified in The Dark Knight Rises due to the fact of the age of Batman, his physical condition, more so to match Bane's fighting style. But it's actually grown very popular, and it's actually, in some cases, been renamed Batman fighting style. Batman fighting method.
Bat fighting.
But it's a self-defense system whose training is based on the study and cultivation of natural instincts. So it's very... I personally think it's very important for this movie being grounded like they did.
Absolutely. Well, it's exactly what it needed after the whole Schumacher business.
Exactly. The other great thing about this movie is that Christopher Nolan preferred the traditional stunt work over the computer-generated imagery. Scale models were used to represent the Narrows and Ra's al Ghul's temple. There were, however, several shots that were CG composite images, where that's an image composed of multiple images. Would be like Gotham's skyline, exterior shots of the Wayne Tower, some of the shots of the monorail, like the exterior. The climactic monorail sequence was mixed live-action footage, model work, and CGI. So that's
a lot of stuff put together in the end. It just seems like a lot of work.
Well, I think the biggest work was the bats.
Oh, yeah.
The bats were entirely digital, except in certain shots where there was just one or two bats.
Right.
But it was decided that larger numbers of real bats would be problematic in directing.
Oh, wow.
So,
hold that thought real quick.
Oh.
I have a pronunciation.
Finally. Cover my mistakes.
Keysi.
Keysi.
I think. Keysi.
So I was right.
Okay, coming back. We just found out that it's called Keysi.
Keysi fighting style.
Thanks to how2pronounce.com. You guys are awesome. Anyways, Keysi. That's what it's called.
Is this a sponsor we're trying to get?
I don't know if they can sponsor us. If they can, then we love you guys.
The digital bats were actually dead bats that were scanned to create these digital models, and certain sets were recreated on the computer so that the flying bats would not be
fake looking?
Yeah, superimposed, let's say.
Gotcha.
Once put into the finished film.
Well, how many times have you seen a domesticated bat?
Once. Maybe. That you know of.
Alright, well, another thing about this movie, when I watched it, was, because of its name, Batman Begins, everyone thought it was a prequel to the original Batman 1989 movie, especially at the end. Spoiler alert for everyone who has not seen it yet. when Gordon gives Batman a piece of evidence, and it's a Joker card. And that's totally like nodding into like 1989 Batman, to which everyone thought it was going to be, but it wasn't. It turned out that it was just the sequel to it was going to be The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger playing the Joker, which is awesome.
And the appearance of Harvey Dent, which later evolved into the creation and quick destruction of Two-Face.
I'll tell you one thing about that movie. I felt like Two-Face did not get enough screen time at all.
I would have to definitely agree to that. Mm-hmm. But the one thing you do notice is that they touch on the fact that he was quote-unquote dead.
Right.
But you never really see, like, the body being carted off. It's possible that he could have gotten up.
Right.
You don't know.
Who knows? But it'll never be explained.
Just like how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. The world may never know.
They actually said 3 in the commercial back in the day. Why would they do that?
Because that owl lies.
All right. Well, let's compare them. Let's compare their numbers.
Can I? Real quick. The musical score for this.
Oh God, yes.
Hans Zimmer. The movie was composed by Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard. Nolan wanted Zimmer to compose the music, and Hans actually asked Christopher Nolan if he could invite Howard to compose as well, as they had planned some sort of collaboration.
Mm.
So,
well, he is a good composer as well.
The two of them did this splendidly.
Oh,
yeah. If you ask me. They wanted to collaborate on the separate themes for the split personality of Bruce Wayne and Batman.
That makes sense, because there's a lot of lighthearted tunes when he's not in the Batsuit, and then when he is in the Batsuit, it's like down, gritty, dirty, kick-ass music. They personify that very well.
Correct. Zimmer wanted to avoid writing music that had been done in the earlier Batman films, so the score became an amalgamation of orchestra and electronic music.
Mm-hmm.
The film's 90-piece orchestra was developed from members of various London orchestras. Zimmer chose to use more than the normal number of cellos in this movie. Also enlisted a boy soprano to help bring in the music in some of the film's more tragic memories of Bruce Wayne.
Right.
Where his parents were involved.
Mm-hmm.
Zimmer actually said he's singing a fairly pretty tune, and then he gets stuck. It's like Froze, Arrested Development.
You know, it was such a good soundtrack too, and I think it really paved the way for like modern film scores from that movie to here on out, with a sort of like pulsing chug feel. And like I can think of Transformers was one, the RoboCop movie was another, and especially Inception, that was which was composed by Hans Zimmer.
Once this one was done, they wanted to bring a more human dimension to Batman, whose normal behavior would typically be seen as sort of psychotic.
Right.
But through the music, they're actually propelling his character more. Both these composers collaborated to create 2 hours and 20 minutes worth of music for the film. Zimmer
wait,
focused
how much?
2 hours and 20 minutes.
Okay, I thought you said like 200 for a second. I was just like, oh my god.
Zimmer focused more on the action sequences, whereas Howard focused more on the dramatic scenes.
Makes sense.
The one interesting thing, even though we're not talking about The Dark Knight, when it came to developing the soundtrack for that, he had so many hours of just these random sort of psychotic sounds to
Makes
sit there
sense
and
for
amplify
the
the
Dark
Joker.
Knight sound,
so you
yeah.
have like the screeching of a violin was like one of the biggest ones, and they had so much development with this.
Oh yeah.
So it's good to have Hans Zimmer for this movie to help basically bring everything together.
It's true. One thing that really I liked about the names of all the pieces on the soundtrack itself are named after different types of bat species.
Interesting.
Latin names for them, but it's just
Domini Patri, Filii, Spiritus Sancti.
But when you listen to them, you're not gonna place them immediately with just the names alone. Like you gotta listen to the soundtrack and watch the movie at the same time to know exactly what music lines up with the score or score to the movie. Excuse me. But yeah, that was kind of a cool creative thing that they did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So from there, shall we compare the numbers?
I believe the time is now.
Okay. Well, when it comes to the ratings, Batman IMDb rating.
Which one?
1989.
We've completely, at this point, I do believe we've cut out the 66 altogether. Because there's no real beating Adam West.
Yeah, well, Batman 1989 version, IMDb rating 7.6 out of 10. Batman Begins 8.3. Rotten Tomatoes, original Batman 1989, 72% fresh rating. Batman Begins 85%.
Wow.
So Batman Begins really heightens the game with each one. But when it came down to money, though, gross for Batman 1989 was $251 million.
Right.
For Batman Begins, though, it was only $205 million.
Ruh-roh.
I know, and it's strange considering Batman budget was $35, and Batman Begins was $150. So Batman Begins only made making even by $55 million, while the original 1989 version broke by over $215 million.
I guess the biggest thing about that is that it was something that hadn't really been done before. It was almost the original reboot.
Right, the original reboot.
But they were actually bringing a depth to a character that had been
established
already,
prominent for the last 2 decades.
Correct.
So let's call the big question. Does Batman Begins, does it get the boot or the reboot compared to the 1989 version?
I'm half tempted to ask your opinion before giving my own, but considering the last time I gave mine before yours, I shall lead. I personally think it gets the reboot. I think they did a fantastic job with it, not only with the director, with the writing that they went with it, with the stunt work, the soundtrack that was with it. I just think it was a very well composed, even though it didn't quite make the money that the 1986 version did. I think they did a fantastic job with the retelling of the tale, and it was one of those things where you said that you kind of held back with it, whereas I was supercharged,
dove right in,
and ready to see it. Batman's one of my nerd points.
Well, and a point it is. I am compelled to agree with you. However, at the same time, I really don't think they can be compared. And as which one's better than the other, because there's such a I wouldn't say there's a different feel, just a different soul behind it. But it all is Batman.
Wait, we can take a Switzerland on this?
We shouldn't, but but I really want to. I'm compelled to agree with you. Batman Begins, successful reboot. It spawned sequels. Just looking at the facts and the numbers, it is the successful movie reboot that we all needed and wanted, especially after Joel Schumacher took over the franchise back in the 90s.
Don't get me started.
No, we won't.
Ladies and gentlemen, another spoiler alert. Batman should not have nipples. Carry on.
I think that's... Well, he may not have nipples, but he does have rubber.
And a thong, apparently. I'm sorry, it's a G-string.
Wow, I can't look at him ever again. I'll never look at George Clooney the same way again, except maybe next time we do our next show. Because, what are we doing next show?
I don't have the set list on.
Oh, God. Well, it starts with an O and ends with an 11. Ocean's 11. Yep, starring George Clooney. And we're comparing it to the original version back in the day.
George Clooney and good friend of Ben Affleck, Matt Damon.
Yep. But I will tell you who the other actor from that 70s show is for next week's episode. Topher Grace. He plays himself, actually, in just a very short scene. I think it's a card game scene with Brad Pitt.
5 degrees of that 70s show.
I know. That's what this show's slowly turning into. So...
Are we going to have to rename the show now? Last week we were worried that...
Das 70s show.
Das 70s connection.
Yep. Well, as long as we don't get into that 80s show, then we're in good shape.
You just had to bring that up.
I'm sorry. Well, hey, we're talking about nasty stuff like Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, so you gotta have the bad and the good in order to, like, really talk about its core value.
Yeah. You have to go from your intense sequences and your tumblers and everything that's good all the way down to your bat nipples and bat G-string.
As long as they don't have a bat dildo, we're fine.
You never
bat
know.
Pole. That's the bat pole. Oh, God. Wait a minute. The bat pole is when they go down into the bat cave, right?
Yeah.
They're going down into the cave on the pole. Oh, my God.
And with that being said, I think it's time that we call this show a close.
Yeah. Anyways.
Because I don't know how much more I can take.
That's what she said. Anyways, thank you for joining in Das Reboot for this episode, our Batman episode. If you want to follow us, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel via facebook.com/Das Reboot podcast, And if you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at DASREB. Das Reb. Das Reb.
You need the phonetic pronunciation of that?
Yeah, we'll look it up and we'll get back to you.
Yes.
Anyways, I'm Steve Jacoby.
I'm Zachary Lyle.
Thank you for tuning in.
Das Reboot!